Planning for the future is among the more difficult of life's tasks because, well, we don't know the future. So, how best does one plan for what we don't know? Host Melanie Taddeo explains exactly what the answers to that question ought to be, and why early planning is something that isn't just some advice we hear in television commercials for seniors or about rainy day funds. But before we dive into this Melanie Minute, let's take a minute to learn more about connecting possibilities. "10 years in the making, Connecting Possibilities, the story of Connect for Life" is Melanie Taddeo's newest publication about the charity she created in 2014.
I'm Melanie Taddeo, the founder of Connect for Life. Connecting Possibilities is a story of growth, leadership, and accessibility. It is the story of Connect for Life.
Available in paperback and EPUB versions globally through all major online retailers.
These are all really common questions that many of us shy away from because we want to live in today. We want to think about maybe tomorrow, but not the future. And this is why we're finding a lot of adults are not prepared for when they retire. Whether you have not been saving enough, you've been living paycheck to paycheck, or you've not considered what would happen in a situation that you hadn't planned for. Perhaps the death of a partner, a loss of a job, or something that shakes your world completely. Being prepared by planning for your future is essential, and it doesn't take a lot. Yes, we've seen those commercials. Make sure you have life insurance. Make sure that you've planned your funeral. Make sure that you have a will. All great advice. So why is it that we're so reluctant to take action and do something about it? Well, we don't want to face our own mortality. That's the first and foremost. But I remember when I was younger, I used to have a friend, and her family taught her about investing money from a very young age. I think from about the age of 14. No, maybe it was, 14. When we first started working, she would take so much of every paycheck and put it into an account. Now, this was an account her parents helped her manage, and she did this for years and years and years. And then when she became 18, she took all that money she had saved over all the summers, all the holidays, anything that she had put into it, and she invested it into a GIC. And I remember going, "Oh, what? What is this?" I had no idea. But this is a really good thing to teach somebody young so that they understand the importance of investing and saving for the future. And I remember having a conversation with her a few years later. "Well, what are you going to do with that money? What are you going to buy?" She said, No, I'm saving it for the future." And I'm like, "Why?" Yes, okay, I was a little naive. I wasn't really there at that age. I guess I was thinking about the greatest trends in fashion, and she could buy a lot with that money, couldn't she? But this is so important. And I think when we talk about financial literacy, this is what we need to teach our young people is the importance of saving for the future. Because it's not just about financial security when we retire and about investing in the right things so that we have money to retire at a reasonable age so we can still enjoy life, but also planning on what our future looks like. Obviously, when we're younger, we have a fantasy of possibly owning our own home, having a family, having that perfect career and job. That's all great to plan for, but actually doing it takes planning. What are you going to do? What goals are you going to achieve to reach it? And how are you going to save in order to afford that house? Because we know nowadays things are so expensive that a lot of young people aren't able to afford houses. But when you finally get to that stage of life where you have your career, you purchased a home, and now you have kids or you have family or spouses, you now have to consider protecting them and yourselves. And of course, this could be with insurance, life insurance, health, critical care, critical disability insurance, or different ways to protect yourselves and those you love. But also, a lot of what we're hearing about is about thinking about sharing what you want with your families. That could be creating a will, especially if you own property. Everybody should have a will. Even if it's just the simple ones you can do at any legal clinic, you can even get a kit to write your own will. It's just quite simple. You want to designate who the executor will be, who your powers of attorney. You need one for health and one for financial. Should never be the same person because it could be a conflict of interest. And then, of course, if you have things that you want to leave to certain people, you want to make sure that this is written down. It doesn't have to be expansive, it doesn't have to be so detailed, but getting something in writing to share your wishes for your will, for your property, and but then, of course, talking about the power of attorneys. Okay, what if I get sick? What is going to happen? Who's going to speak on my behalf? And what are my wishes? Now, I wish I had known all of this prior to my stroke when I was in the coma. Thank goodness my family made some good choices and kept me around. But you, as an individual, can outline what your wishes are. Do you want to be dependent on life support? Do you want people to do everything possible to resuscitate you? All of these hard things that is a really uncomfortable conversations to have. But also, what is it you don't want? Do you not want to be left in a certain state if there's something that's happened? Or again, you have these choices ahead if you only take the time to plan for the future. But not only are you protecting your wishes to be heard, but you're also protecting your family. Because if you don't have a will and you haven't allocated things to different people, we know that in the real world, finances and care can get very hot topics when it comes to family. And I think I know what my family would know, want, and all this stuff. And there's arguments and there's fights. And then ultimately, if there is no will or nothing in writing that's been outlined, it goes to the government. So that's also another really important reason why we should all have something to protect ourselves. But let's not think about the worst case scenarios, but let's think about how are we going to afford care? We know as seniors, we have the pension plan. Now, if you didn't work all your life and have an extra pension from your workplace and you're only depending on Canada pension, it's not a lot to survive on. It's very minimal. And we know at the cost of living, this is making life for seniors very, very difficult, not only to survive with rent or mortgage payments or whatever it might look like. But also, when you think about it, a lot of things are not covered for seniors after you don't have the benefits the same as you did when you were. Yes, you have a little bit of benefits, but you still have to cover the cost of prescriptions. And as we get older, we have other costs, perhaps having to pay for personal support if you're not, if you have to have private care. And also, we need to think about retirement homes or how we're going to afford to live if we want, because we know long term care facilities there's a long waiting list, and they're not necessarily at the top of the notch. Many seniors have been used to a certain level of luxury, let's say, or independence, and not all of them provide that for them. So if you want something more, we need to then look at having the money to be able to do that. Yes, there's RRSPs, there's RDSPs, there are obviously different pension plans, and as we get older, there's other investments that seniors can look at. But then we have to think about what our decisions and final wishes are and how it's going to impact our family. Because after we're gone, if we leave things to our family members, they get taxed. They have to do a lot of maneuvering around so that they don't get penalized for inheriting certain things. We know that if somebody inherits a home and they already have a home, this could be somewhat of a problem. So that's why you'll notice a lot of families that have a lot of children, and their parents pass away, they'll sell the home and they'll divide the money depending on what the individuals were looking for. But all this needs to be outlined in a plan for the future so that you are considering not only what you want, but also what your family will need to know. If you are wanting certain things for your celebration of life or a funeral, you need to outline this to make sure that this is outlined. If you have children or dependents, who's going to care for them? Who's going to be responsible? Have you put money aside for their education? All of these things are things you need to consider to ensure that there are no gaps. you're not missing out on anything. And that ultimately the responsibility and the pressure of your family or the executor or anyone that's there to care for you also has what they need. So it is a big responsibility and something we shouldn't shy away from. I think back to my friend when her parents had her starting at such a young age. I think this is beautiful. I think it's something we all need to do. I really wish I had done it because now, even though I am prepared and have planned for my future, we never know what will happen tomorrow. And perhaps if I had started planning for the future when I was younger, I would have had everything done much earlier because we don't want to spend our senior years or even our retirement age planning and scrambling just to survive. We want to enjoy this time with our loved ones, traveling, doing what we love, volunteering, whatever it might look like for you. So I encourage you all to take some time to do some reflection. Look at your own life, your family's life, and are you prepared for the future? If not, I encourage you to start today. There are organizations and services out there to help you do this, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So think long term, but start small. Baby steps will get it done. Until next time.
You have been listening to Connect for Life, the podcast. Connect for Life is a Canadian-based registered charity committed to eliminating barriers for people with disabilities. Visit connectforlife.ca and join us in helping people with disabilities become the champions of their growth stories.